Hey everybody, as you may know, One Hit Thunder is part of the Evergreen Podcast Network, and I'm not only excited to tell you about, but I'm also excited to listen myself to the new show, Countdown to Dallas. On the 60th anniversary of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, former White House correspondent Paul Brandis takes an in-depth look at the seemingly unconnected events that led to that infamous afternoon in Dallas, Texas. He explores the troubled and broken life of Kennedy's killer, Lee Harvey Oswald, and challenges 6 decades worth of conspiracy theories, none of which have been proven. Paul combs through tens of thousands of documents, all recently released by the National Archives and Records Administration, the CIA, and the FBI. Paul's findings take us back to 1939 to explore the transient childhood and often violent teenage years of Oswald, a man who was focused on becoming famous by any means. The first few episodes of this podcast are out now, so subscribe to Countdown to Dallas today in your favorite listening app or at evergreenpodcast.com. If you played EA Sports video games in 2005, or if you simply tuned into the radio, you couldn't escape Franz Ferdinand's Take Me Out, a disco-inspired rock song with an unusual structure and an even stranger music video. Critics showered praise on this stylish band's hook-laden dance music, and although the song only reached number 66 on the Hot 100, it has become an inescapable classic that remains relevant even today. At the request of our Patreon supporters, we're diving deeper into the band this week to understand what all the hype was about.
One hit is all you need to make the money guaranteed, and you can live off royalties forever. And it makes me wonder, is it just a wonder, or is it one hit thunder?
Matt, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you're a Franz Ferdinand fan.
I definitely am. There's a lot of bands that sound like this that I like more than this band, but I do have like 3 of their albums. I like them enough.
3 of their albums, yeah, I think you probably like them. I went into this being like, this band, this song. I never liked this song, and when I was looking into this band and listening more and learning more about them, I realized why I don't like them. It was so clear as day. The year 2005, I was playing 3 video games.
Oh, God. It was in every video game at that time.
Madden 05.
Yep.
NHL 05. And Guitar Hero. It was on all 3 of those. I don't know how it's possible that they were on both NHL and Madden. I don't know if that's ever happened before, that the same song was on both games, and I was playing both games, and the song played so much during the games. That's my biggest complaint about this song, is why is this song played so freaking much even now? I don't understand.
I think it's weird to me because when you look at this song's chart standing, it's debatable if it's even something we can cover.
Right.
Like it peaked at 66. And technically they had another single that peaked at 76, which makes us go like, well, does this even count? I would say that my go-to was also the Spotify of it all. This song had 700 million more streams than their other single that charted. Like that across the board. This is the song. This is the song that people know by this band. I think I was shocked by, in my mind, this was like a little weird indie song that kind of like got onto the charts. And like, we're going to jump ahead a little bit. So the music video for Take Me Out actually won the VMA for Breakthrough Music Video.
Sure.
Award.
The music video is cool. Yeah,
The music video is cool.
I don't mind the music video.
But I'm going to read to you who else was in that nomination, who else was like nominated for that. And at least 3 of those artists feel like how I imagine this band to be in level of popularity. Like Indie Darling that had a hit, right? So the 2 that don't fall into that category out the gate is Newfound Glory, All Downhill From Here was up for that award, and Kanye West, All Falls Down was up for the Breakthrough Video Award. Also on there was Modest Mouse, Float On, which I definitely see a connection. Stereogram's Walkie Talkie Man. Do you remember that video at all? It was like the all yarn music video.
Yeah, I do think I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a very memorable song. It's got like a cool like like guitar riff, but the whole video is made out of yarn. It's a stop motion yarn music video. It's insane. And then this band was obviously way bigger than Modest Mouse, Franz, Ferdinand, and Stereogram, but the White Stripes, Hardest Button to Button, like another band that kind of fits in that like indie darlings that have unexpected radio success. I don't think I understood truly how big of a, like, how much the press loved this band.
The critical acclaim is just, it's almost like, are you kidding? You like this that much? Now, let me start by saying, musically, it's a solid song. It's a good song. It has a good beat. You could dance to it. I think that was the whole appeal to it. What was missing for me...
I think that it's like 3 different songs, which I think is what makes it cool. It almost feels like 3 songs kind of like Frankenstein together.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have a dramatic... tempo reduction after like the first minute of the song that goes to the most recognizable part of the song. The
but
riff
then it gets
is so huge in this song.
But then even the bridge suddenly gets like disco-y out of nowhere, where it gets in that I know I won't be leaving here. Like all of a sudden it's like picking up again. It's a really interesting song. And maybe that's why it was so popular. You know what I mean? Like we talk about that a lot of the time is like, if you make a song that's so weird that people can't help but try to dissect it, maybe that's... I can understand why it was on 3 different video games, because it kind of scratches... I'm sure that like when you were playing it in video games, they may have even cut out the first minute of it.
Oh, of course.
You know what I mean?
It was only that riff. That riff. Yeah. It would be, before a play in Madden, or it would be, during a menu on NHL, or, before a face-off or whatever, and that riff would play. And it's just like, oh my God. Of course, that's always been a huge goal, to get a song onto an EA Sports game. I'm a sports fan. So getting a song on NHL or Madden or something was like, oh my God, that would be incredible. The downside of that is it teaches people to really hate your song when they hear it too much. I guess maybe Tony Hawk is the exception to the rule, because people really seem to love those like punk and ska songs from the Tony Hawk game. So I don't know. Obviously,
but I think
it helped
the flip side of it probably did. I think the flip side with the Tony Hawk games is that most of those Tony Hawk songs also weren't being played on the radio and all over MTV at the exact same time.
Yeah. I mean, there's something, disco was the right word. It's very much like disco rock. This band's whole catalog is kind of that. And if you don't like disco, just forget it. If you have, and I think okay, I went further in, and we're going to go through my journey as we explore them in this episode. But I think my first complaint about them in this song, and this is a taste thing, I guess, is it's danceable, yes, and it has lots of hooks, but it lacks any like feeling or emotion as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what mood I would put this song on other than sports event while there's a commercial break. Like I don't know, like even dancing, I mean, I guess it depends on how drunk I was, but there's if I wanted to dance to something, there are 1,000 songs I would pick over this song. I guess maybe not when it comes to dancing while watching a rock band play. I guess that, but I don't know.
It's weird because one of the first things I saw when I was doing research for this is that the main songwriter, Alex, said that the idea of the song's theme came when they watched the snipers duel scene in Enemy at the Gates, and that it felt like a good metaphor for the kind of romantic situations that we sometimes find ourselves in. And I was like, this song? Like, I was kind of like, what? And then I was like, I guess I never paid attention to the fact that there are these lyrics like, I'm just a crosshair, I'm just a shot away from you. Like, they're using like sniper metaphors in the verses, but that all falls apart with the like kind of repetitive chorus slash pre-chorus slash verse hook, whatever, that doesn't really say anything. Like, it's catchy, but it doesn't have anything that it's saying beyond that.
Well, I think you could have stopped that. I couldn't have named, maybe Take Me Out because that's the name of the song. I don't even hear the lyrics in this song. All I hear is da na 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 da na 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 and the beat. Like, that is all I hear when I hear this song. And hey, that's cool. That's catchy. It's definitely lived on. I could have done with never hearing this song again. I'm really good on this song. And it's not that I think it's a bad song. I think it's obviously a really well-constructed song. It's a great song that doesn't resonate with me whatsoever. You know, there's no emotion to it or something. I don't feel it. Maybe there is, and I'm wrong about that, but it doesn't do anything for me. But that being said, I went down a Franz Ferdinand journey, and when I came out the other side of it, I thought to myself, well, I guess I like this band.
Yeah, you might not like the hit, but you might like everything else. I have a quote about this particular song that I think is really interesting from the main songwriter and vocalist Alex, who said, "When we were writing the songs, we concluded that the verses sounded better when they were played faster, and the choruses sounded better when played slower, and we couldn't quite work it out. And then I had this idea that we're just going to take all of the verses, put them at the front of the song, and then we're going to slow it down and just repetitively play the chorus," which is absolutely kind of the wrong way to do it.
It worked.
And it's
it
like,
worked.
that is, could you ever, in the 25 years that you've been in a band, imagine pitching the idea of like, hey guys, what if we just put every single verse in the first minute of the song and then just play the chorus for 2 minutes?
Well, what I would say is that especially a tempo change is involved in that as well. So structure aside, I think that anybody I play music with would just be like, let's just make these two different songs. Like 99.9% of people would have said, hey, these parts are cool. Let's make them two different songs. And I guess we got to give Franz Ferdinand credit for being like, nope, we're gonna make this a song, and it's gonna be one of the biggest songs ever, and critics are gonna lose their absolute minds over it. Dude, the critic thing, I do not get it. These music publications, in their instance, we're talking about NME. They're over in the UK.
I was gonna say who is NME, because I see their name constantly on research. And I know that they are an established publication, but like, I know Pitchfork. I hear Pitchfork, I'm like, I know what Pitchfork represents. When I hear Rolling Stone, I kind of have a vibe for what Rolling Stone represents. Is NME like British indie music specifically focused, or just
not just indie? It's all music.
Okay, it's all music.
It's basically a UK Rolling Stone.
Okay,
and
that makes sense. I just wasn't sure, because like when you hear Pitchfork, you think of like they're gonna really be into the like obscure indie shit for the most part. That's gonna be like their thing. Rolling Stone is usually like a little bit more like well-known, established rock in my mind. Source is like your rap magazine, so I wasn't sure if they were like all-encompassing or if they were like very focused on a specific genre.
I always assumed that NME, obviously I'm not a reader, but it's kind of just what I've learned from doing podcasts for a long time. I always assumed they were rock based, but then I've seen rappers on their cover and stuff too.
Right. So yeah, they're just all across. Yeah, they named this album, the self-titled album, the best album of 2004. And then they placed it at 38 on the 100 best albums of all time.
How do you do that? How do you put a band from that year? It was the same year they did that, right?
Yeah.
How
I
do
believe
you
so.
instantly put it to number 38? Don't you need a little bit of time to look back on it? Can't you be like, hey, we're thinking about putting this on. Why instantly put that on? Is it so two guys can flip out about it on a podcast decades
Maybe.
later, or what?
Maybe. Well, and like, let's not even take away. Here's all of the Take Me Out credits. All of the big ones that I wrote down. Q Magazine put it as the 41 best guitar track of all time. That same magazine also put it as the 34th greatest track ever performed by a British band. NME.
That's very specific. And what is Q Magazine?
I have no clue.
Okay.
NME put Take Me Out at number 16 on the 50 greatest indie anthems of all time. MTV2 placed it at number 7 on a similar list. October 2011, NME placed it at 27 on the list of the 150 best tracks of the last 15 years. Pitchfork ranked the song as 44th on its top 100 or top 500 tracks of the 2000s, and Rolling Stone, in its 2010 updated version of the 500 greatest songs of all time, put it at number 327.
Well, I guess me not really liking this song, I guess I'm just wrong. I guess that's all there's to I'm just wrong. And once again, it's a pretty good song. I just think it was overplayed. I kind of wonder if I hadn't had it beaten into my brain through video games at the time it came out, if maybe I would have a more favorable opinion of it or something.
It's possible. I mean, so the other big thing that came up was obviously the Grammys also threw a ton of nominations on this thing. It was nominated. The song was nominated for the best rock performance of the year by a duo or group with vocals, and their album was nominated for the best alternative album of that year. Now, this album came out in 2004. By 2005, they're already putting out their second album called You Could Have It So Much Better, and that actually received a lot of press saying that it was an album equal to, if not even better than, the self-titled debut. And that's where we get the probably their second biggest single comes off of that particular record, which was called, oh no, I'm blanking on the name of the song. Do You Want To? Okay. Which, yeah, I mean but it was like, for this 2-year period, this was like the biggest thing happening in like the indie / British rock sound across the board for critics. They could not get enough of this record.
Yeah, and people couldn't either. I mean, that second album came out and it went to number 1 on the UK charts. It went to number 8 on the US charts.
Yeah, it outperformed the self-titled on the actual charts, as far as album sales. It's crazy.
People liked it. I mean, also, one more thing about the debut album for Franz Ferdinand. It won the Mercury Prize. Now, do you know what the Mercury Prize is?
I don't, actually.
It's awarded to the best album released by a musical act from the UK or Ireland. And, you know, when you look back at the list of who won, it's a pretty impressive list. Franz Ferdinand won it for their debut album. You know who they beat?
I'm trying to think of British bands real quick.
There's some impressive ones that they beat.
Let's just hear them.
The Streets, A Grand Don't Come for Free.
Oh,
that would have been mine.
That's a lot of people. A lot of people say that's their best album. It's not my favorite, but a lot of people love that album.
Yeah. Amy Winehouse, Frank. Now, Frank's all right. Frank has a couple good songs on it. But
it's not the follow-up album at all, though.
Yeah, it's not Back to Black. And Belle and Sebastian's Dear Catastrophe Waitress, my favorite Belle and Sebastian album.
Really? Yeah. I mean, I like that album a lot, too. I'm definitely more of a If You're Feeling Sinister
well, anyway, and there was also a bunch more. There were like 10 bands and artists nominated.
None of those are not anyone to slouch at. Those are all like
can't slouch at them.
Can't slouch them. I'm making up my own phrases on this podcast, Chris.
Hey, I know your boy. You know you made it. How do you know you made it, Matt?
Weird Al Yankovic did this in a polka, baby.
He sure did. He sure did.
Straight out of Linwood.
Yep. And how could he not? So they continued on, and here's where I'll say the turn started to happen for me a little bit. I feel like I've been very negative about them, and I shouldn't be. I mean, the musicianship's great. There's no doubt about it. And to make something danceable is very cool. I like that.
Yeah. I would also say that it's not shocking that they're a very tight musical band, because we didn't really talk about the origins, but this is almost, I don't call them a supergroup because none of their previous bands were popular or famous, but this is like one of those classic examples of like a bunch of dudes who are in a bunch of different bands all collaborating together. Like their origins are like all of them were playing in these different Scottish bands, and then they all like came together and formed. And usually when that happens, it's like the most musically proficient members of all of these different bands find like a connection to each other, and then you get this like crazy tight group of like really talented dude. I mean, I think one of them was like friends with the guys from Bell and Sebastian.
Well, Alex,
like,
funny enough you say that. The one person in the band who wasn't that was Bob Hardy, the bassist. Alex taught Bob how to play bass after being given a bass by Mick Cook from Bell and Sebastian.
Yeah, so I mean, they were like already, they had some type of connection. I also love their name was that they were watching a horse race, and one of the horses was named the Archduke Ferdinand.
Yeah.
And that got them talking about the history of Franz Ferdinand, and they liked the alliteration, thought that'd be a good name. But their drummer, Paul, said, I like the idea that if we ever became popular, maybe the words Franz Ferdinand would make people think of a band instead of a historical figure.
Right.
And I think he's achieved that for the most part.
Yeah, I think so. That's a shame, considering the assassination of Franz Ferdinand is kind of what kicked off
World War II. World War I, yeah.
Yeah, so also you did both pronunciations when you were just talking, Matt, because I would have assumed that was Franz Ferdinand, but I watched an interview with them and they say Franz Ferdinand. So for the record, Franz Ferdinand, unless I'm misinterpreting their accent. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, so, hey, it's straight from the racehorse's mouth.
Speaking of starting to change my opinion on Franz Ferdinand, the band, I watched their, I always love a good Nardwuar interview.
Okay.
And I always like when the band or artist is nice to Nardwuar. I can't stand it when someone doesn't get Nardwuar and is like a dick to him. I hate that. But these guys, they seem like really nice guys. I really, another one of my complaints with them is it was more, to me, more style than substance. Everything about them was like more about the style, even their clothing, the way they dress. They went back to, dressing sharp. And there's nothing wrong with dressing sharp, but it just all seemed like this packaged perfect thing. And just even down to the press they got. It almost felt like, are you guys all in on something that I'm not in on? I kind of felt that way. Didn't we talk about this to a certain extent about the Strokes? How when the Strokes came out, it was like, why are all the music publications just falling over themselves about this? It almost feels like something weird is going on.
It was, so this was like my time, I would say. This was like 2001. Either it's late freshman year of high school or early sophomore year of high school. And MTV2 is like finally come to my town. It's a big deal. We have music videos again. And that was when the whole The Band craze was popping off. And I was all in on it. Like, I loved every single one of them. And each one of them, I would say, like, fell into a different category for me. Like, The Hives was this frantic, like, almost punk rock, like, weird band from Sweden. And then, you had the White Stripes that was just, like, these indie, like, you could just tell they were indie darlings. I think with the Strokes, I remember just watching the Last Night video for the first time, and the two words to describe it were, like, effortlessly cool. Like there was just something about the band where you just look at them and you're like, these guys are just cool. And if there's one thing I've learned about music critics, most of them aren't cool. and will gravitate to people who seem really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I'm
would think they would gravitate to other people who also aren't cool.
You'd think that, but like, let's be fair. A lot of, as speaking as a not cool person from high school, secretly we do kind of want to be cool. So if there's like someone who's cool that also, it's like not only do they seem cool, but it seems like they're cool and have the same musical reference point as what I like. It's like, ooh, I like these guys. It's like when you find out that like if you found out that like the quarterback on your high school football team was also like really into Rancid, you'd be like, hey, I got something in common with the football hero.
All right. If you say so. I mean, and there's nothing to back up me thinking there's some sort of conspiracy, because major labels wanted to sign Franz Ferdinand, but yet they opted to sign with an indie label. Everything they did was just kind of like the cool decision, the more cool decision. There was one thing I found, Matt. And this has nothing. There's no way that this is that you can attribute Franz Ferdinand's success to this, but they did have a little bit of a payola scandal. Apparently, I don't know if it was a label. I don't know who's making the payments, but a radio station in Buffalo was paid. Some DJ was paid $4,000 to play "Take Me Out" on the radio station there. Now, I say that you do sometimes need a spark. You need a radio station to start playing you, so other ones will see that you got added to a playlist and maybe start playing you too. But I think it would be a real stretch to think that $4,000 paid to a radio station in Buffalo sparked the giant things that followed for Franz Ferdinand. So we'll not count that.
It'd be different if it was paid to like K-Rock or something, where it's like everybody's looking at K-Rock to see what they're putting on their playlist.
Well, unless they did pay K-Rock and Buffalo was the only one who got busted.
Yeah.
This could be it too. I mean,
that is also true.
I've said this before. I'll say it again. Payola, I think it's shitty, but I always just assumed that's what happened. Why are the songs on the radio being played? It's because someone's being paid for them to play it. That's what I always assumed. That I think I was like 35 when I learned like, oh, that's not what happens? Or are we supposed to pretend that's not what happens?
Hey, one-hit thunderers, thunderheads, thunder buns. All right, I'll just go with one-hit thunder listeners. This is Krista Makes, guitarist and vocalist for Less Than Jake, and host of Krista Makes a Podcast, a songwriting podcast where every week I'm joined by an amazing guest to break down the writing, recording, and release of one iconic song that they have written. In our giant evergreen back catalog of episodes, we've had rock legends such as Dee Snider and Huey Lewis, punk rock favorites such as Mark Hoppus, Fat Mike, and Brett Gurewitz, up-and-coming artists of today such as Liz Stokes of the Beths and Genesis Owusu, and even some of the artists that have been featured on One Hit Thunder. The show is even produced by One Hit Thunder host Chris Fafalius. What more could you possibly ask for? Krista Makes a Podcast is available for free on all the places you listen to podcasts, and new episodes come out every Monday. I guarantee you'll like it, or we'll give you your money back.
Let's start saying some nice stuff about Franz Ferdinand. They're obviously a really good band. Every interview I watch with them, they're down to earth. They super appreciate the fact that this was such a big song. Alex still loves the song. He's one of those guys who's outspoken about like, I don't understand when bands don't like their big song. Like if you don't like it, don't play it, but don't moan about it. That's what he said.
Yeah.
I agree. If you're lucky enough to have some song that hits, you better love that thing. Just love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome that you have that. I love that about him. They released their third album, Tonight, Franz Ferdinand, in January of 2009. Of course, they played every big Glastonbury, Coachella. They were part of Green Day's 21st Century Breakdown World Tour, which I thought was interesting. Because the other bands, like they did one leg of it, and the other bands that did legs of that were like Kaiser Chiefs and The Bravery, all bands like within the same style. Like at that moment, they must have really wanted like a dancey band to open.
Did you hear not the one that comes out this year, but the most recent Green Day album, the like Father of All Motherfuckers, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm. What about it?
A lot of people, I don't think it's a particularly great Green Day album, but I don't hate it. But a lot of people hated that album because they said, why is Green Day trying to sound like Franz Ferdinand and like the Hives and all of these like old, like these like 2001 garage rock bands? And I think that that's just secretly a style of music Billy Joe Armstrong really, really likes.
Right. It's
and
dancey.
it makes sense.
It's
He's like,
dancey.
I want people to fucking dance.
Yeah, I get that. Also, Matt, I love that you gave Franz Ferdinand a third pronunciation, which is
I've been trying to do as many as I can.
How many more
trying to get
ways
people
can
drunk.
we pronounce the name of this band? They released their fourth album, Right Thoughts, Right Words, Right Action, in August of 2013. Then, in March of 2015, they formed a supergroup with Sparks under the name FFS.
Nice.
Do you know Sparks?
I know Sparks. I actually just watched the documentary about them like a year ago.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. They had a song called Johnny Delusional. It's all right. But Sparks is pretty interesting. I didn't know a lot about Sparks, but, and I would assume that some of our listeners don't too, but check out the song This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us.
Great song.
They are like progressive disco or something.
Yeah.
They're just very, very strange. Definitely always making weird faces. That's one of the big things about them. People like to talk about they're strange looking and always making strange faces. They also had a hit in 1979 called The Number One Song in Heaven, which was a pretty strange one. Anyway.
Fun fact related to Sparks and myself indirectly. The first ever recording of Weird Algorithm happened the night after Matt Milligan came home from a Sparks concert.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I could have told you he liked Sparks. As far as as increasing my liking of Franz Ferdinand, they released the song Demagogue in 2016, which was a song protesting the candidacy of Donald Trump. I thought that was pretty cool. It was part of this 30 Days, 50 Songs project, which was a bunch of different bands and artists who all had songs advocating against voting for Donald Trump, which didn't work in 2016. It worked 4 years later, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Then here's another thing I'll say. They released the song Billy Goodbye in November 2021. This might be my favorite Franz Ferdinand song, and it's like a more recent one. It's really upbeat and feel good. They released the single Curious in January of 2022 from the album Hits to the Head, which came out in March 2022. It's okay. I think they're pretty cool. I don't think I'm going to be listening to them, but they definitely... Did they influence? Like you brought up Float On by Modest Mouse. That's obviously...
Yeah.
I like Float On more. That was right around the same time, so I don't know if this song influenced Modest Mouse. I would guess.
Well, I
maybe
wouldn't.
no.
I would say no, because Modest Mouse had a solid decade of.
Yeah, but not a solid
records.
decade of sounding like.
No,
Float On.
that's for sure. It's weird because that is an album. The good news for people who like bad news. That's probably my favorite Modest Mouse record, and I feel like a lot of the diehards see that as like the album where Modest Mouse stopped being a band for them. But
That's dumb.
yeah, that is a weird, trippy album. I don't think it could have been because they came out so close to one another.
Right.
It must have just been a vibe in the ether of people
Yeah.
wanting to do stuff kind of like that.
But then in the following years, there are a lot of things that were probably influenced by that. E-Pro from Beck was kind of that feel. Dude, I would have guessed that this song was Franz Ferdinand. That song Paralyzer by Finger 11. Do you know that song?
Yeah.
It sounds like they were doing that. And that was a few years later. I saw some people say Electric Feel might have been. I don't know about. I don't know. I mean, just because the song's dancey. Phoenix. Phoenix is a band. Now, Phoenix is a band that does the dance thing. I just like their melodies and the lyrics and their style so much more than what Franz Ferdinand is a lot more garagey. Maybe that's the issue I have.
Can I pitch this out there too? I do think that Franz Ferdinand, like the success of Take Me Out, I do think is influential in its own right to music. But like talking about like what may have been in the air that created this like kind of disco dancey vibe. I mean, while these weren't mainstream explosions, you have to think that like people who are in that indie rock stratus, like that little globe of indie rock. At this point, the the Scissor Sisters
Right.
had put out an album which was like super disco. Like that was like just a straight disco record. And this is the year after Give Up from Postal Service, which was like adding in a little bit more of that dancey vibe to like you're suddenly hearing the guy from Death Cab who's like the indie darling of indie darlings at that point doing this very like synthy dancey track. So I wonder if there was just a lot of that vibe happening in that music scene of like let's get to like more dancey shit. Let's not do the 7-minute like drawn out instrumental ambient stuff, and let's like get people happy and dancing for a little bit.
Well, Alex from Franz Ferdinand, I think it was him who I saw, said something that made sense. He said, you know, you have the styles of rock music that either A, you're going to stand there with your arms crossed and watch the band play, or B, you're going to mosh. Like, how about we make something that makes people want to dance, which I 100% agree with. I just think that there's just something about their particular music doesn't speak to me. I think it's the lack of emotion, and it seems more style than emotion. That would be my only complaint about them. But like I said, I like some of their later music a little bit more. Also, I believe, Matt, that the Scissor Sisters eventually covered Take Me Out. Did you know
think
that?
you're correct in that.
I think they did. So yeah, here we are. Matt, I have a little quiz for you.
Ooh, okay. I mean, I do terribly on these, but let's give it a shot.
It's only 4 questions.
Okay.
Okay, and I feel like you're just going to be guessing on these, but maybe the listeners can play along and see how well they do.
Okay, I'm ready.
So we know that Take Me Out was on Madden 05.
Okay.
Which one of these songs was not on Madden 05?
Man, I am going to do terribly. Okay, let's do this.
A, Open Your Eyes by Alter Bridge. B, American Idiot by Green Day. C, Give It Up by Midtown. Or D, Move Along by the All-American Rejects.
I would be really shocked if Midtown got onto an NFL game.
Is that your answer?
That's my answer. Midtown, Give It Up.
You are wrong. Midtown was on Madden 05. How crazy is
Wow.
that? It's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, not like my favorite Midtown song by any stretch, but damn, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So who was it that wasn't on there?
The All-American Rejects Move Along was not on
Really?
Madden 05. Right.
That would have made way more sense to me.
And American Idiot was another one. It played so much on the game that it made me hate the song.
No, that was the... Alter Bridge was too deep of a cut to not be there. And American Idiot, I was like, I know that I've been in a room where someone was playing football and that song was playing out of their TV.
Right. All right, you're 0 for 1.
Okay.
Which one of these songs was not on NHL 05?
Okay.
A, Memory by Sugar Cult. B, Feel Good Incorporated by Gorillaz. C, From Out of Nowhere by Faith No More. Or D, Time to Go by the Dropkick Murphys.
You said it was 05?
Yep, NHL 05.
Trying to remember when Demon Day, because I don't think Demon Days had come out yet. So I'm going to say Feel Good Incorporated by the Gorillaz.
You got it.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah. That won the breakout music video the following year. So I
Well, to get my fake answer, I just Googled songs that were popular in 2005. So
yeah,
it was definitely out that year. But
that's true. I was like, I don't think it would have. Also, I can't imagine that really fitting the vibe of playing hockey.
Okay.
Compared to the other ones.
Sure.
Also good for Sugar Cult.
Yeah. Okay. Third question. Hey, you're doing all right. You got one. Which one of these songs was not one of the 47 songs on Guitar Hero? Now, did you play Guitar Hero?
I was more of a rock band guy,
okay.
but
all right.
We'll see.
Yeah, me too, actually. But I played some Guitar Hero too. Okay, which one of these was not on Guitar Hero? A, Killer Queen by Queen. B, Thunder Kiss 65 by White Zombie. C, Best of You by Foo Fighters. Or D, Fat Lip by Sum 41.
I'm going to go with Fat Lip by Sum 41. I feel like that was in Rock Band.
No, sorry, Matt. It was Best of You by Foo Fighters.
That was the other one I was thinking. I was torn between those two. Because I remember seeing people play Killer Queen on Guitar Hero. When you did Rock Band, what was your preferred instrument, real quick?
I like to play the drums.
Okay. I did vocals mostly, and then sometimes drums, just because, like, as someone who played, like, I wasn't a good guitarist, but I could play rudimentary guitar. It is so weird trying to figure out the way that it wants you to strum on the fake guitar.
I mean, it's just
Like,
matching
it was like
colors. It's not.
Yeah, it was like really fucking with my brain though, because I want it to like my like hand wanted to do more of a strumming motion and not just like a clicking motion, and it fucked with me.
It
so I
drives
couldn't
me
do
crazy.
the guitars.
And I do think they made a band. I think it was called like Rocksmith or something, where it actually taught you how to play these songs on guitar, but it just didn't take off. People just wanted to click numbers or click colors along with beats or whatever.
Yeah, and even drums. Drums was easier the harder that you played it at, I feel like. Because like when I would play it on easy to get started, I'd be like, this isn't really fitting the tempo of the song.
Yeah.
All right. Last question.
Last question is, which one of these artists was not part of the 30 Days, 50 Songs project advocating against voting for Donald Trump in 2016?
Okay.
A, Red Hot Chili Peppers. B, Death Cab for Cutie. C, Jimmy Eat World. Or D, Tim Heidecker.
I wouldn't be shocked if Red Hot Chili Peppers tried to not get involved in that. Just like, not that I think that they wanted to vote for Donald Trump, but they seem like one of the more apolitical bands that I can think of. So I'm going to say Red Hot Chili Peppers.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard them say anything political. I would really hope that Flea doesn't like Trump. I would assume he doesn't.
I don't think he does either, but I feel like the Red Hot Chili Peppers have hit that level of famous that's kind of like the Michael Jordan quote of like, will Republicans buy sneakers also? I feel like they're just like, hey, let's just not rock the boat or say anything.
I guess, yeah. Also,
I don't love it, but
part of that project also was Ani DeFranco, REM, Amy Mann, Cold War Kids, JPEG Mafia, Local Natives, Andrew Bird, Modern Baseball, and a whole bunch more.
None of those really shock me. Well, Chris, I think it's obvious for me, so I want you to start off on this one. You've gone through quite a journey. Thunder or Blunder?
I came out of getting ready for this episode much more of a fan of Franz Ferdinand. I majorly respect the band. Hell yeah. I mean, just because I don't want to listen to them doesn't mean they're not good or something. It just doesn't appeal to my taste. They're Thunder. I mean, they're still a band. They're still releasing music. They've had other hits. They're a cool band. I just don't want to listen to them. They're Thunder. Stamp them.
All right. And I mean, I'm right there with you. So there it is. The seal of approval. Certified. This has been One Hit Thunder. One Hit Thunder is hosted by Chris Falios of the band Punchline and produced by Matt Kelly of Geekscape.net. Underneath me, you're hearing Stop off the Punchline EP Rewind. Be sure to check out punchline.com for any upcoming news about the band. Our podcast is on Patreon now. Find us at patreon.com/OHT podcast for early access to episodes, bonus episodes, and a chance to vote on future songs for us to cover. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on any podcasting app, and tune in next week for more One Hit Thunder.
Everything is blue, silhouette of trees, and all I see is you. Before I get into your eyes, I want you to know that I can be so
You're listening to the Geekscape Network. Hey, this is Dewey Halpus, host of Peer Pleasure on the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Join me each week as I explore another long-form conversation with one of your favorite musicians, actors, comedians, or creatives. From Chino Moreno of the Deftones, John Gorley of Portugal the Man, to Fat Mike from NoFX and Ian MacKaye from Fugazi and Minor Threat, we go all over the map. From Fall Out Boy to Slayer, Peer Pleasure has it all. Check us out now on Sound Talent Media.
Well, hey friends, my name is Zach Lupetin. You may know me from the band Dust Bowl Revival, but I also host a music discovery podcast called The Show on the Road. For the last 5 seasons, I've been able to dive deep and have intimate chats with folks like the Lumineers, Ani DeFranco, Wolfpack, Keb Mo, Lake Street Dive, Bela Fleck, and more. So guess what? After 150 conversations with some of my favorite songwriters from around the world, we are bringing brand new episodes to the Osiris Network. New interviews and intimate acoustic performances will be coming at you this summer. And which episodes are coming next, you ask?
I am Zach Goody, the lead singer for the band Smash Mouth.
Our band is called Milky Chance. We are based in Berlin.
My name is David Shaw. I sing and write songs with my band, The Revivalists.
Trust me, these conversations go some wild places. So subscribe to The Show on the Road on Osiris, and we'll see you soon.